Welcome to my video series on making an occasional table. This table is going to be veneered. We're going to be using curly maple. We're going to be using walnut veneer, and so there'll be a lot of laminating substrates for the top and bottom. And I'm going to start by laminating the substrate for the top. I'm going to use 2 layers of 1/4 inch MDF sandwiched over a layer of 3/4 inch plywood, and that'll give me good stability, a good smooth glue surface for the veneer, and good dowel and screw holding capability. Now I'm going to be using Unibond 800 as the glue to make up this laminate, and Unibond 800 will adhere better to MDF if I rough it up a little bit. So I've taken some 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm simply going to rough up the pre-cut pieces of MDF. These are 33 by 33 pieces. They'll fit inside a gluing caul that I have for the vacuum press. So I'll just rough up these pieces, glue them together. We'll be in business. I'm getting ready to do some vacuum bagging, and I've been asked in the past to talk a little bit about the pump I use and the parts that go into it. This is a Venturi type vacuum pump. It operates by taking air from I've got a Sears air compressor downstairs I've had for 30 or more years, and it's just puts out 100 psi. It's a twin cylinder cast iron type, and it's enough to provide air to come on through this Venturi pump. The air actually comes squirting out the end here, and it creates a vacuum about this point in the pump, and that vacuum is drawn through this hose, which goes into this set of fittings, and essentially takes a vacuum on the hose that goes to the vacuum bag. This is the fitting that hooks to the vacuum bag. It just hooks onto a kind of a bicycle valve type arrangement. Here's a little switch that allows me to turn the air supply on and off, either manually or when the vacuum gets to a certain number of inches. And here's a meter, a gauge that shows inches of vacuum on the system. The whole thing is built into 2 plastic cylinders made out of just regular 3-inch PVC pipe, the kind that's used for plumbing. And you tap these fittings into the pipe. You put a couple of end caps onto the pipe. It's hard to see, but maybe you can see there. Just take a section of pipe, put a couple of plastic end caps on there, drill a hole through one end, tap it, put the fitting in there. Do that for a pair of caps and a pair of tanks, and what that does is it gives you kind of a buffer vacuum so that it evens out the vacuum pull and gives you a little reserve vacuum when you need it. And that's pretty much what it is. Like I say, this pressure switch is operated electrically, so we've got electrical power that comes in from a regular outlet, and you can adjust the pressure. Normally I get up to about 25 inches of vacuum or so. Then this connects to the vacuum bag. The vacuum bag is a thick polyethylene bag with a fitting on there that, again, I say it looks kind of like a valve on a tire. And the hose just fits on there with a little clip, and then you can draw a vacuum. Of course, you got to seal up the end of the bag, and we'll be doing that later. That uses just a clamping arrangement that seals the bag. I get all these parts from a guy on the internet. He calls himself Joe Woodworker. You can get his website either through joewoodworker.com or veneersupplies.com, and he's got instructions on how to make up this kind of vacuum pump if this is what you'd like to use, and he also sells all the parts and so forth. Now, the actual work goes in a caul, and I've got a small version over here. This is a clamping caul. Consists of a kind of a box I make out of MDF, and I've gone and put saw curves on both the front and the back of the bottom of the box to allow the air to distribute evenly. And then I've got a couple of smooth pieces of masonite that I can put the work between, and then the top that fits in is the same, saw curves on both sides, a piece of MDF, and you can put the work in there, and that will enable you to make a nice flat clamping and draw, the vacuum will draw the parts together, make a nice flat clamping. It's not necessary really to put the curves on the inside of the box. I did it in this case, but in this one I'm using right here, the curves are just on the bottom and the top, and the insides are smooth so that the glue doesn't stick. And also, as a matter of fact, this is the top piece that's going to fit in. I got the curves on one side. The other side is smooth. It's laminated with plastic laminate. The whole thing fits into the box. If the piece that you're clamping is smaller than this box, you need to make some spacers to fit in here so that the top comes down nice and evenly and doesn't try to bow. But that's really all there is to it. As I normally do with my laminate glue-ups, I'm using Unibond 800, 2-part urea formaldehyde glue, and I mix up the resin with the hardener. This time I'm using the medium color hardener. Comes in 3 colors, light, medium, and dark. And let's see, I'm thinking 300 or 400 grams. Let's try about 350 when I have enough glue, but you don't want to waste it either. So I got 350 grams. I mix about a 10-to-1 ratio, so I got to put in about 35 grams of hardener. Okay, we'll just go ahead and add the catalyst hardener. There we go. I got about 38 grams, that's fine. It's got a pretty wide range of about 7-to-1 to 12-to-1. I usually try to hit about 10-to-1. So we'll just go ahead and mix this up and then let it sit and slake for a few minutes so that the powder is fully mixed and absorbed with the liquid resin. I'll just go ahead and pour some on here. And just use a notch trowel. This is a Hyde 19120. It's got small notches, so I get an even application. And you might notice I tape the edges together so that the assembly won't slide around as I'm trying to get it into the bag. This is going to be an exact fit too, so I have line the inside with tape, clear packing tape, so that squeeze out won't adhere to the sides of the form. And then I've got the spacers I talked about that I put in to keep the platen flat and not let it bow. If there's an empty space under the platen, it'll tend to bow. and then you won't get even pressure over all of your work. Slide that into the bag, trying to keep the valve over one of the saw kerfs. And then we'll hook our air up. On the vacuum, I've got about 25.5 inches of mercury. That's a little over 12.5 psi, pounds per square inch. I got a 33-inch square piece in here, so that works out to about 6.8 tons of clamping pressure. It's just hard to imagine there's that much pressure, but that's what it is. And here's the finished substrates all laminated up. You can see this is the top and this is the base. The base I made using a couple pieces of 3/16" plywood, sandwiching a piece of 3/4 inch particle board. And I've drawn the cutout circle here and the wedges that I'll be using for the veneering. And then here's the top. It's a piece of 3/4 inch shop plywood with a piece of 1/4 inch MDF on each side. And again, I've drawn the circle and drawn in the wedges. And in this side, I veneer a circle in the middle. But these wedges will be the curly maple, and the middle will be the walnut. So we can go ahead and move on now to getting the veneer ready.